Hey guys, it's Travis, the Pagan Scholar, here underneath an outcropping of rock, also balanced precariously on a creek bed, but this is the best positioning that I can do. This video is brought to you by Becky, actually. She commented on one of the previous videos. Thank you so much for your support, and this video is for you. I hope you do well on your paper, exam, or whatever it is that you are doing in your religions course. So this video is for Chapter 4 of Her Hidden Children. Chapter 4 is titled The Playboy and the Witch, Wicca and Popular Culture. Alright, so Chapter 4 deals with three different topics, or three different themes that all come together. The first topic is the 60s, basically just the entire scene, the ethos and the mythos, everything that comes together that sets the scene for contemporary paganism in America. So in the 60s, I'll be very brief about this because I was not alive during the 60s and I cannot speak with total authority, but the 60s was an era of counterculture, obviously. We have, you know, the hippie, the beatnik, I know I'm kind of merging 50s and 70s, but it was a time where counterculture really came into its own and we were able to establish just the idea that alternative did not necessarily equate bad. Alternative meant something to be explored, it meant something to be questioned, and something that could be taken seriously and legitimately. Also in the 60s, we have the rise of witchcraft as a theme in Hollywood. This was kind of like never done before. You didn't have a lot of serious themes of witchcraft in film and media, but with the 60s we have Bewitched, and he offers another example, Long Shadows, which is a show I've never seen, but hey, that might be fun to look at. Also in the 60s we have the rise of two publications, well, the 50s too, but anyways, in the 60s they really came into their own, and that was Cosmo, yes, the magazine, and Playboy, yes, the other magazine. What we can derive from these two different publications is that they had distinct writing styles. Helen Brown was the editor of Cosmopolitan from when was she? In the 60s, and so she had published a work called Sex and the Single Girl. This is important because Sex and the Single Girl was a product of the 60s. It was a manual for young women who were in pink-collar jobs, like secretaries, to move up in the world, how to be a cosmopolitan woman. And so because of the success of her book, she was made the editor of Cosmo. The Cosmo articles were how to move up in the world, how to do these things, how to be independent, how to be liberated. Gay Darlene Bedard was a pagan writer, and she wrote The Naked Witch, and it followed the same tone, the same theme and structure as the Cosmo how-to articles, how to move up, how to be liberated, and things like that. Alongside that, we also have the rise of the Playboy journalism. So in the 60s and in the 50s, Playboy wasn't necessarily a porno mag. It had serious journalism in it, and it had tips for the aspiring gentleman on like what neckties to buy and things like that. With Playboy, we also have Hans Holzer as the prime example of the pagan Playboy writer. Hans Holzer produced a fuck ton of books. I have no clue how many. I did not even decide to research it because Hans Holzer's kind of meh. But in a lot of his books, you can actually see the pattern that arises over and over and over again. Basically, Hans Holzer went about his books with a survey in mind, the way of gathering data and publishing it. It was the Playboy lifestyle pattern of broad and shallow knowledge. Typically, after a historical introduction, the writer begins in New York City and its suburbs with Julia Bryant, a personable Creole girl, or Mimi, a New York East Village witch type, 22, pretty, believes in demons, is married to a male witch, and likes to dabble in the occult in general. Then he continues on, like after the introductions of this, like, here's this personable person. You might go to a curio shop, you might go to a witch store, and then just like breathlessly admit witches are everywhere. Which, yeah, that's cool, that's great. And then after that, you go on a whirlwind tour. I'm seriously just like quoting the book, of witchcraft and sorcery. Not surprisingly, the interviews usually have certain things in common. They are writers themselves, and they own bookstores or occult supply shops. And then he actually gathered all of the data. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Clifton now. Clifton then gathered all of the data from these different interviews, and he realized that all of the books had interviewed the same person, or persons, and they all just, it's just reproduced over and over and over again. But that's not to bash Hans Holzer. It kind of is, but we're not going to go there right now. What's interesting, though, is these how-to books, like in the Cosmo style, and these survey general field books, like in the Playboy style, they proliferated everywhere. So many people were publishing these how-to books and these survey books, and that was the only way for contemporary pagans of the 60s and 70s to find each other. And that it brings us to the third part of the chapter, why does everybody want to be a witch? Or why does everybody want to become a witch? Whatever it was. Anyways, Travis the Lazy Scholar. Because it was the 60s and there was no internet, the only way for people to connect and to discover their very minority status religion was through these books. And even though they were kind of crap, you read them all. There was nobody to tell you which books were good and which books were bad, so you just had to wade through all of the garbage and all of the poor writing and the things that were, reported as non-fiction, but you really can't ever verify a Hans Holzer book as non-fiction. And it brought people together, and they were, the pagans of the 60s were at least grateful for that, because it provided some sort of witness, some sort of recognition for the fact that, yes, there are other people out there. And so for that, Hans Holzer, as shitty a writer as he did a great service to the pagan community. It let people see that it wasn't just them, that they weren't by themselves, that there was indeed a community, no matter how small and difficult to find. And that is actually the chapter. I told you it was pretty short. So I kind of meandered through the chapter a little bit, and this wasn't as spick and span and fact-ready as some of my other videos. However, I really did want to get this video out. I thought it would be a fun idea to go hiking in the creek and record a video. It's what really makes my Thursdays. It's really, really what, makes my days off a good, productive day off. Alright, guys, I'm going to get out of the moving lighting, and I'm going to go back to my apartment and edit this. I hope that you enjoyed it. A subscription is appreciated, a like is appreciated, and you know what? Everything's appreciated, everything. I appreciate you. So, as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.